This is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced.
Howdy, folks. How you going? Good to have your company again tonight, and nice to see so many of you out and about and have put up with my inability to figure out the difference in daylight savings time. I apologize. God, you'd think I'd get that right after all these years. So I am GMT plus 10 at the moment. You guys are GMT plus 11 if you're anywhere else, like New South Wales or Victoria. If you're in South Australia, you're somewhere ahead of us and behind them. And Tassie, I think you're on Victorian time. The Northern Territory, I don't know, like Western Australia, I think you've basically done that to daylight saving, as Queensland has. And there is talk that Queensland will go back to a referendum. Another one. I was around here the last time they had a referendum for daylight savings in Queensland, and that was bloody hilarious. I was working in Gladstone at the time. Having come from Victoria, used to, I grew up with a twilight. It took me years to realise in Queensland that we don't get a twilight, at least not on the coast. And that is because we are obviously the far eastern edge of the continent. Victoria, where I grew up, while along the coast, was along the southern coast, not the eastern one, and we had to wait for the sun to come up. That's the funny thing about the sun. It sort of comes up earlier in the east, and that's why we have different time zones. Anyway, don't need to go into all of that. Interesting week, has it not been? Well, interesting, last few days. There is a lot of talk about military and Australian ports. I've got a couple of questions about that. Thank you, Bruce, kicking us off tonight with a sticker. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm going to go and have a cruise around the Brisbane area tomorrow, but I'm pretty confident there is no US naval ship in the Brisbane port. That's not to say that there isn't one sitting off the ports or sitting off the coast anywhere. I know that in Hobart last week, the USS Tripoli, which is an amphibious landing craft, I might even have a picture of it here somewhere. Story out of the news. I'm not sure if I've got it here or not. No. Let me see if I've got it back here. There we go. That's the one we want. So the USS Tripoli, this one. Now, she's an amphibious assault machine. Looks more like an aircraft carrier, I know. That's because they have an awful lot of helicopters. And I assume that they have things like Harrier jump jets that they can run off there too, because the Marines run Harriers. I'm not sure if they run the jump jet. I've got a sneaking suspicion they run the other version, bit of a normal jet. That doesn't look like it's big enough to be landing jets, but you never know how big if it's got a steam catapult on it, you never know. At any rate, that docked in Hobart last week. Now, they have the F-35 Lightnings on board. Oh, yes. They have vertical takeoff, so that could help. They've also got vertical landing, but I believe it's not quite as stable. They can certainly get up and off the deck, though. So interesting. I know Darwin has some at the moment. There have been a number of different ships in at Sydney. Don't know what's in at the moment. If anybody's in Melbourne and or Geelong, around that area, are there any US ships docked there? Yes, Paul, you're right. They've got Ospreys on there too, although Ospreys are now very old technology. They are very expensive to run. I think they're just an amazing machine, but it's at the end of the day, it's a machine that's trying to fling itself apart in so many different ways. But yeah, an amazing machine. I remember reading about them years ago. Hello, Sue. Nice to see you joining us. My fault, we're all running a bit late. I forgot how daylight savings works. Most embarrassing. G'day, Luke. Nice to hear from you too in Perth. Don't know how far you are from Freo, Luke. We're talking about ships, particularly of the American variety, and whether or not there are any in your port. So, folks, anybody, anywhere in Australia, in a major port, are there any warships? It doesn't have to be American, but are there any warships just pulled in, ostensibly looking like the crew are having some time off or whatever? Be very keen to know, because I'm, we get a lot of stories about, there's, US warships in every port. Well, I don't know. Are there? Big news when US warships usually come to town. The only time that they're relatively quiet is when those warships are actually submarines. They usually don't advertise the fact that they're tied up alongside anywhere, because obviously a lot of people want to go and see them. I was one of them when one turned up in Brisbane a few years ago, and you couldn't get terribly close to it on the shore side, but if you're smart enough and knew your way around Pinker Bay, you could get over the other side and have a look at it quite nicely. And a lot of people had boats, obviously, and got a bit of a close-up look too. So they don't advertise the submarines are in. I would seriously doubt that things like the USS Tripoli are travelling alone. So there may well be a sub that's turned up somewhere in Geelong or Melbourne, or maybe even a little further afield, might be back in Sydney. Who knows? They're funny things. They can pop up just about anywhere. But we're being told these stories that, we've got ships in every port. Well, I don't know. Send me some pictures, folks. I haven't seen any other than that one, which is a week old and came from, I don't know, the Herald Sun or something like that, and probably it came out of the can't remember what the name of the main paper in Hobart is, but I'll say the Mercury or the Tribune or something like that. So I'm sure one of the people in here will tell me. Nice to see the Galactic Larrikins in the house. G'day, boys. Tonight I'm assuming it's simply boy, because I know one of them is actually out doing his real job and earning a crust. So good luck to him. Thanks to you for popping along tonight, mate. Appreciate it. Look out, Michelle's singing your praises back again. It's so nice to be loved. And the Galactic Larrikins love being loved, folks. Don't you worry about that. So does Neo. He expresses it in a whole different way, especially if you're a little overweight like me and you look like a pillow. You don't want to know what he does to a pillow. Got to be careful when you're sleeping around Neo. Back to what we were talking about. Oh, the advertiser, it is in Hobart. So thank you very much, whoever put that one up. Sorry. What was that one? Subs rock into harbour at night, and they also leave at night as well. Yeah. They usually, unless the Navy are coming into town on shore leave, they usually don't advertise the fact that they're coming to town. Let me just pick my pen up. Subs especially very quiet, because they get a lot of people protesting around them because they don't know, but they suspect there could be nuclear weapons on board. That's why they don't dock in New Zealand at all. In fact, I'm not sure too many US warships dock in New Zealand at all. If you happen to be watching from New Zealand, tell us if there are any warships docked in your part of the world. When I was in Hobart, the Timana, I think is how you would say it, T-E, next word Mana, M-A-N-A, it looked to me like a frigate. It was docked at Hobart and was there a few days while I was in Hobart at any rate. I'm not sure if it's still there, but didn't see any Navy boys on the streets, didn't see any of them at the tourist sites. So that's strange. When a boat comes to town, even one of that size, it's still got a couple of hundred more, 300 people on it. You sort of expect a bit of shore leave. You expect to see them running around doing a few things. Okay, I didn't go to the brothels. But I don't know. I would have expected to see a few of them down at Port Arthur, maybe. Nothing, nada, zip, not on the streets. So she was in getting fuel. They were putting a lot of fuel into her. So there was that. So it's unhappy carnal offender. Jesus, there's a statement. It had an ABC headline, Carl, explaining why it's there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yes, they would say it's there to do the humanitarian thing and fill up on fuel. And yeah, quite likely. It's just interesting that it's turned up at a time when everybody is saying, we've got a ship in every port. So I'm asking the question, do we really have a ship in every port? Is there something we should be getting excited about? I can't be in all the ports, but I am going to be passing a few of them very shortly. No guarantee that anything will be in there, least of all cargo ships. There's rumours abounding that our ports are closed to cargo ships. Now, if anybody can confirm that, I should actually ask Sean Ambrose if he's in the chat. I'm not sure if he is. Poor bugger has got himself a new job, but it's a reasonable drive from where he lives to where he works and then back home again. And he's got to do it in Sydney traffic. So I'm not sure if he's back yet, but he's a man to know about ports and all things nautical. So might be a question I'll have to ask him. Now, I did mention that the boys, both Sean and Patriot 101 Glenn, were going to come on tonight. Unfortunately, they're both busy. Glenn actually has a whole heap of, and I'll quote him, important Zooms that he has to do. And that's cool. And as I said, Sean, unfortunately, is stuck in traffic. But they assure me that they will be available for the Friday night free-for-all, which I'm looking forward to. Should be an interesting show. I did see somewhere in the chat someone asked about Guru. Try and find that. I think it is, where is Guru? That is the $64,000 question. I'm not sure. I haven't heard from Guru in a little while. He's been helping Cossack, or they've been working together on some stuff in Sydney, which I think has gone out pretty well. Just trying to think back over the weekend, they had a barbecue, huge sausage sizzle, and I think there was 100 beds for the homeless that they turned up to St Andrews in Sydney and tried to donate to the church, and then have the sausage sizzle out the front, feed a few people, and have a little rally. It wasn't going to be anything huge by any stretch of the imagination. So I believe the church made it bigger than it needed to be when they refused the Aussie Cossack and the Guru permission to have a barbecue there. And then the police turned up, and then the police major mobile command centre turned up, of course, because, well, I think that's all they do. They sit in that van and they watch Aussie Cossack videos or watch his live streams and then wonder whether or not they can go out and arrest him for something, because they are just hunging to try and put him back behind bars. Because you must remember that the Aussie Cossack is still on bail, folks. He's still on bail until, I want to say it's January. I could be wrong, but it might be the end of January. And my hat goes off to the man. I mean, he is pushing the boundaries and doing some very, very good stuff. In fact, Tracy Grimshaw's quitting, or has quit, and she's going to leave A Current Affair at the end of this year. I reckon the Aussie Cossack, Channel 9, should be looking at the Aussie Cossack to replace her. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, it would be a pretty easy mix. You put him into the same dressing room she had. You wouldn't even have to change the wardrobe much, because she likes to wear those big jackets. And, well, if I'm honest, the Cossack's bra size and Tracy's is probably the same, so they wouldn't need to swap out too much there. Wouldn't have to upgrade the wardrobe much at all. And I guarantee you, the Aussie Cossack will bring you some ratings and a hell of a lot of fresh ideas, I dare say, for A Current Affair. And if there is ever a foot in the door man required for We the People, then vote 1, the Aussie Cossack, for foot in the door. Did that finger come up? No, it seems to disappear in the blackness. There you go. Vote 1, the Aussie Cossack, for foot in the door man on A Current Affair. If you can't have Tracy Grimshaw's chair, I mean, for all the aforementioned reasons. Love you, brother. I love the work that you're doing. You're really doing some great stuff at the moment. So I believe that Guru was there, I think, when that was held on Saturday or Sunday. And I did hear in one of the Cossacks videos, I heard Guru speaking in the background. So he did get a hold of the mic. I heard that the mic got, well, I don't know how the mic wound up, but yeah, somebody else wound up with a microphone there for a while, and eventually, when apparently he decided he'd had enough, and somebody else could have a go, he handed the microphone back, despite being asked a couple of times to give it back sooner. So I don't know. I haven't heard much about that, and I do hope Guru will let me know at some stage if he wants to talk about it. I'm sure. But at any rate, a bloody successful event all round. I was a bit disappointed. I mean, if you're a religious person, if you're somebody who heads off to church, and to be honest, I'm quite ignorant of what flavour church St Andrews would be. Catholic, Anglican, Presbyterian, Uniting, doesn't sound very Lutheran. So it doesn't really matter what flavour the church is. Their mission supposedly is to help the homeless, aren't they? All churches are meant to help the homeless. They've all got places, missions, where they help the homeless. They feed them, they clothe them, they give them a place to stay overnight, many of them. And yet the Cossacks arrived with 100 beds and food, donations of food, bread. They cooked the sausages. I don't know how many of the sausages they cooked, but they looked like they cooked an awful lot. And, a lot of people enjoyed many sausages, but I'm sure there were a few left over. So they could have gone to, the church's mission that night and been dished out for dinner. But no, the church didn't want to do that. Now, I hesitate to blame the church on the food issue too much, because these days with occupational health and safety and food, this and that and the other bloody thing, you'd probably have to have every individual sausage bagged and itemized and kept in some sort of temperature humidifier bloody thing, so it kept lukewarm enough to be stuck on a bit of bread that night and have sauce poured over it. Or put in a fridge that was kept below, a certain temperature, so that you could still have it on your sandwich that night with a bit of sauce and not break your teeth trying to eat it because it had frozen. But no, that was all too bloody hard for the church. So I'm led to believe that I haven't spoken to the Cossack either. Just been a busy week for everybody. I believe that they had to ring around to find other places in and around Sydney that would accept donations, particularly of the beds, which I know that there were some given out on the streets of Sydney, so I can't tell you exactly how many, but I suspect quite a few were taken to another place in a Sydney suburb somewhere, I think. And those guys opened their door and gratefully received them, and they'd obviously put them to very good use. So kudos to the Cossack for not giving up on the steps of the church and just having 100 beds we can all go and camp on next time we sleep at Canberra. He followed through and made sure that everybody got the best use out of the stuff on the day, and then whatever was left over went to the right people so that they could get it to the people in need on the streets of Sydney. Bloody awesome job, guys. Awesome job. And I know Guru was involved in helping put all that together as well. So kudos to the Guru too. The bit of him that I did see on some of the coverage, I was pleased and impressed to see he still had his shirt on. And a very dapper looking pink shirt too, can I just say. I think it was the Aussie Cossacks pink shirt that he was in. So yeah, very good, very good. He got man with his skin colouring looks very good in a pink shirt. Got to tell you, just saying, girls. Not that he needs a missus or anything. Not saying that, but he looks good. The pink shirts just aren't for girls. I should say guys. I thank you, Paul. It's an Anglican church. I'm just scanning down your. That's an interesting one. I'll keep an eye out for. Okay. Well, here's an interesting story. That's a bit salient because part of the reason that I screwed everything up tonight and buggered up timelines and whatnot is because I've had phones in both ears and fingers and two keyboards and still managed to screw shit up. That's because right at the very last moments of today, after a long conversation with Cherie this morning, God love her, don't we love Cherie? we've been able to throw together our Central to Far North Queensland trip, and it's going to start a little sooner than I'd expected. So interesting news about those road blockages. I'd be very, very keen to hear more about that, Crunch, because we're going to Hervey Bay this Sunday. So the 27th, that'll be. We're going to be at the park where, I think most everybody has been to the park in Hervey Bay where everybody comes to speak. Don't know what sort of a show we're going to be able to put on from the park. We kind of need power for all our cameras and stuff. So might just be a laptop show that we do off there, and a big smile to everybody that gets close enough to the PA. We are then going to Rockhampton, and from Rockhampton, and Rocky's date will be Tuesday the 29th. It might be moved to Monday yet, but I hope not, because it's a reasonable drive from Hervey Bay to Rocky. But it may move to the 28th, but at this stage it's Tuesday the 29th. Mackay is the Thursday, December 1st, and then Townsville will be Saturday, December 3rd. So now I'll look at the bloody microphone and say that again. I apologise. 27th of November in Hervey Bay at the Shell in the park. Now, Di's looking after that for folks in Hervey Bay. She helped arrange the last show that we did in Hervey Bay, and she runs the peer group there, or is part of the peer group at least, and has the Pier House. Beautiful place, B&B. If you're going to Hervey Bay, folks, you need a B&B. Di's Pier House is absolutely beautiful. Can't recommend it enough. Rocky, where Tuesday the 29th, but it might move back to the Monday the 28th. A lot of people are having Christmas parties at this time of the year. We're trying to get venues that are being a bit friendly on cost to save people money. And, at the end of the day, we'd like you to come along and have dinner. So that helps the pub make a few bucks on a quiet night. But December's not good. Christmas parties every night of the week, it seems to be. So we might have to wind up paying for rooms along the way yet, and that might mean we have to charge a few bucks at the door to try and cover our costs, folks. So that's sort of just how it's going to have to be. I'm sorry. Mackay, Thursday the December 3rd, and then that drive from Mackay to Townsville, the last time I was on it was about a year ago, and it was at least a good third of it was under roadworks. I can't imagine that's improved. I did hear at some stage that the whole road between Mackay and Townsville was under 60 or 80 kilometre an hour roadworks. That makes a 5-hour drive a much, much, much grander event. So we'll have a day to drive up to Townsville. And then Saturday, December 3rd, at the moment, I think is the date we're talking about with Peter. And Peter, I'll give you a call soon. We've got to catch up. There's a few things we need to talk about. And the Townsville show, I think, folks, is going to be a ball terror, one not to be missed. Now, I don't have actual venues for you yet. I just have dates. But Cherie at vofhq.com will take your details and forward them on to those folks that are organising it, or we will put the details up on the website, one of the two. One of us will figure out how to do that and make that work. I hope that if you're up that way, either in Hervey Bay or Rockhampton, maybe Mackay or Townsville, you'll choose to join us. Now, if you are in Cairns or anywhere, let's say, south of Cairns, and you'd like us to come and do a show with your like-minded group of people, maybe you've got a My Place idea, or you'd like to learn a bit about My Place and how we can get more My Places happening in Queensland. And there are some exciting things. Darren Bergworth and I spoke for an hour today. There are some exciting things planned for My Place, and I'm very happy that Voice of Freedom is going to be allowed to play a part in quite a lot of that. So very excited. And Darren and I will have more to say about that over the next month or so. Who knows? Might be driving from Cairns to Melbourne yet. Did say we'll go on the road wherever you want us to be. We'll be there. So all we need is fuel money. And as always, you can donate at vofhq.com, folks. If that's the way you choose to help us, then it's gratefully received. T-shirts. Getting a lot of talk about T-shirts and a few orders for T-shirts. Right. So Hayden is the young man who's designed our new Magna Carta T-shirts, and our Voice of Freedom logo that you see behind me was designed by someone else. But we are having some logos and or T-shirts put together with new Magna Carta logo, new Knight, and they'll be in black and white. Now, we're going to take orders for those on our VoF HQ website. At the moment, we're just trying to find the right person to send those orders to, and hope to have that tied up this week. So if you're after a Voice of Freedom shirt or a Magna Carta shirt, then hopefully by the end of this week, you'll be able to go to our website, have a look at them, and see how they come up. I'm just going to have a bit of a glance and see if I've got an idea of how they look here. And I don't have them in this. So apologies. Can't show them to you right now, but I will get to it. So yes, some Voice of Freedom shirts coming our way. Let me have a look here. Those coercive control laws in New South Wales trying to bring in partners not coerced by government or doctors. Okay, so Rob, has that been stipulated in the bill? I haven't seen the actual bill. I'd be very interested in seeing that bill. So essentially, if you're not sure what we're talking about here, folks, or what the coercive control laws are, there was a thing put out recently. Once again, I had a big clean out here the other day, and I don't think that I've left that in here. My apologies once again. So coercive control laws were being introduced that would make it illegal for people to coerce you in any way or compel you in any way to do certain things. Now, yes, I did see that these were particularly aimed at domestic violence. However, I didn't see that there was a stipulation that government or medical departments would be exempt from this law, though it makes sense that they'd give themselves a way out. I don't think it's really going to matter. I think they're going to face a whole heap of different law, which is, probably a nice segue to get into a few of the things that I'd planned to talk about tonight. So Michelle, I'm only seeing maybe one end of a conversation here on Stu Peters on Red Alert. I've been watching Stu Peters' new release, Died Suddenly. It's available on Rumble. Go and check it out. I was watching it earlier today. I've seen maybe 20 minutes of it, and it's very well put together. So yeah, Died Suddenly, well worth having a look at. And if you've got jabbed folks around you, then you might want to get them to watch it by themselves. It's very confronting in places. At least the first 20 minutes doesn't seem to hide too many punches. Agate Master, the roadworks are still going on from Mackay to Townsville. I gather you're talking about. I also gather that there are roadworks between Brisbane and Hervey Bay. That normally takes 3.5 hours. Somebody said it took them 5 hours the other day to do that. So, all right. So we're going to have to allow a little extra drive time. But anyway, it's not a bad time of year to go out and have a look. It'll be interesting to see the contrast between the land. Obviously, we've covered a fair bit of it recently, from Victoria back through New South Wales, down around Canberra, and then back up here, of course. So yeah, we'll go and have a bit of a look. I don't think Laura's going to travel with me this time. She's got a little bit on, including some dog sitting this weekend and a few other bits and pieces with a girlfriend of hers. So I think it'll be myself, and I will have a travelling partner. His name is Len Clampett. And now Len is a very fascinating man, a very, very fascinating man. And in Hervey Bay, I think I'll give him, half an hour of my time so that he can have a talk to folks about the financial system as it currently stands and what they think and how it works. And he has some very deep understanding of that. He's also a constitutional law specialist. I'm interested to hear what he has to say on those, on the Constitution and practical and working the Constitution practically. He follows a lot of Spiros cases very closely, and a lot of other cases around the world. Very knowledgeable man. Len drove trucks, drove aeroplanes, and yes, has been quite, I think, quite successful in his time. He's very happy to share his knowledge of the financial industry. I had a bit of a chat with him today about Nasara Jasara, and he, like many of us, is, I'm just sitting on the fence waiting to see evidence of it. We're all hoping that that's what's going to happen, but, there's no guarantees in life, and we've all found that out the hard way. So, no guarantees. But he's going to have some very interesting things to say on a whole range of matters. So I'm really looking forward to having Len on this run up North Queensland. And it's going to be an interesting time for us all. Sort of like a bit of a boys' trip. Looking forward to it. Unfortunately, the Galactic Larrikins, and get into them, folks, because there is one sitting in here. Thank you, Sunflower, for the sticker. Get into them because they can't make the trip up north for Queensland. I mean, one of them's got to work, and the other one's got to look after his, mum who's just had surgery. I mean, they're good excuses, all right, but it's very unfortunate that the Galactic Larrikins can't come up and help us on this run. But maybe in Victoria, we'll see how we go. Thank you, Rob. Yes, couldn't agree more. I think Nuremberg 2 is already underway. We just haven't seen too much evidence of it yet. Some folks want to talk to me about Lord Howe Island and how we were seeing flights go out there and disappear. I've had all sorts of excuses, reasons, plausible and not so, for why there might be military flights going out there at this time of year. That, there certainly isn't anything military-like happening on the island. That comes from people who are living on the island. I simply say to you that Lord Howe Island is a very small island. One of the reports came back that it is a very, very short airstrip. The only military aircraft really capable of landing there are Hercules, which short field landing and takeoff aircraft. And that's pretty much what we've seen flying there. There have been some smaller jets. The actual airport, or the runway, was made by the RAF. So they certainly get a bit of a hold on it for working wise. But the folks are also saying, they're living out there, saying, no, absolutely nothing going on here. One would suggest that the military, if they were going to lock your island down and didn't want the world to know about it, would be monitoring every conversation coming out of the island. And the people would have been told under threat of, I would suggest, death, that to relay that there was anything out of the ordinary happening there could have catastrophic consequences. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that if this whole martial law thing, and this is what we're going to get to and have a little talk about tonight, if this whole martial law thing is happening, then that is not beyond the realms of possibility, because they will be working that kind of thing, and wanting to keep it under wraps. So, to that end, a lot of folks have wondered over time. I've spoken about I'm going to call him 45, as in the number president that he was, because if I say the other word, I think I'm probably still going to get kicked off YouTube or get banned or, whatever the hell they do to you. So I'm going to call him 45. Now, I've referred to the executive orders that 45 wrote pretty much from the beginning of my broadcasts. And prior to that, if you knew me on Facebook or you were reading some of my writings on Facebook, I was alluding to this prior to the election that 45 disputed for the last few years. Now, if you haven't already done so, then I'm going to show you what Executive Order 13848 actually is. Now, it's a very serious document. I'm going to try and blow it up a little bit so we can all read it maybe a bit better. I'm hoping that's not too big for you guys. Let me just see. When I do this, oh no, that looks like it's fitting on the screen, he says, hopefully. Yeah, there you go. All right, so by the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the National Emergencies Act, and of the Immigration Nationality Act and sections of the United States Code. Now, United States Code, that is something you're going to want to remember, all right? USC. He, 45, the president of that place, find that the ability of persons located in or in substantial part outside the United States to interfere in or undermine public confidence in United States elections, including through the unauthorized accessing of election and campaign infrastructure or the covert distribution of propaganda and disinformation, constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Remember that. It creates an extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Although there has been no evidence of a foreign power altering the outcome or vote tabulation in any United States election, foreign powers have historically sought to exploit America's free and open political system. In recent years, the proliferation of digital devices and internet-based communications has created significant vulnerabilities and magnified the scope and intensity of the threat of foreign interference, as illustrated in the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. That last line, I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. Now, before we go any further, that means that the United States Congress has to look at whatever he believes is going on when he declares a national emergency. The Congress and the Senate refused. Strike one. So, what did he order? Not later than 45 days after the conclusion of a United States election, the Director of National Intelligence, in consultation with the heads of any other appropriate executive departments and agencies, shall conduct an assessment of any information indicating that a foreign government or any person acting as an agent of or on behalf of a foreign government has acted with the intent or purpose of interfering in that election. Now, you must also understand at this point, folks, that Australia has, I believe, played a role in interfering. And that role began, at least in my assessment at this stage, with Alexander Downer. Now, you will all remember Alexander Downer and his little chat that he had with a fella in a bar in London, and it's. I don't think it's a large stretch to say that a lot of the ensuing small talk and then legal talk after that will see that Australia obviously were involved. Alexander Downer was definitely involved, and he was our High Commissioner to the UK at the time, I believe. So, there was some interesting shit going down, and Australia was involved in that. Now, you can go and download this executive order. It was written, just to be clear, on September the 12th, 2018. This was before the midterm elections of his first season and before, obviously, the main presidential election 2 years later. Now, what did Donald Trump know back then that nobody else seemed to know? Because some of these, and I should actually click over and see, are you bored? Should I stop reading this? Because I will. I'll just let you go and download it yourself and have a read. But it is an amazing document when you fully understand the powers that it gives the United States military. And you have to understand the United States military doesn't necessarily mean who you think it means. There is a lot of wordplay going on here. And as I've been saying ever since I started broadcasting, words mean things. And what sometimes you think they mean do not actually bear out in reality. So a bit of that going on, but not in this document, I can assure you. So it seems to be that nobody has said don't stop reading, so few have said keep reading. So the assessment shall identify to the maximum extent ascertainable the nature of any foreign interference and any methods it employed to execute it. Okay, so it's going to the maximum extent attainable the nature of any foreign interference. So that might explain why we've got American ships in our ports at the moment. The persons involved in the foreign government or governments that authorised, directed, sponsored or supported it. The Director of National Intelligence shall deliver this assessment and appropriate supporting information to the President, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of Defence, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security. Within 45 days of receiving the assessment and information described in Section 1A of the order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the heads of any other appropriate agencies and as appropriate state and local officials, shall deliver to the President, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Defence a report evaluating with respect to the United States election that is the subject of the assessment described in Section 1A. The extent to which any foreign interference that targeted election infrastructure materially affected the security or integrity of that infrastructure, the tabulation of votes, or the timely transmission of election results, and if any foreign interference involved activities targeting the infrastructure of or pertaining to a political organisation, campaign or candidate, the extent to which such activities materially affected the security or integrity of the infrastructure, including the unauthorised access to, disclosure or threatened disclosure of, or alteration or falsification of information or data. Now, do you think he was a clairvoyant, folks? Because let's be honest, the bloke had some serious foresight there to come up with a lot of that, don't you think? Pretty wild. So this report goes on to show that, and I'm hoping that you're seeing me scroll through this, and maybe you're not. There is it lays out in exquisite detail. Not later than 30 days following the date of this order, the Secretary of State and all the other secretaries we mentioned before, and the Director of National Intelligence shall develop a framework for the process that will be used to carry out their respective responsibilities pursuant to this order. The the framework may be classified in whole or in part, shall focus on ensuring, that's probably an important bit, the framework which may be classified in whole or in part shall focus on ensuring that agencies fulfill their responsibilities pursuant to this order in a manner that maintains methodical consistency, protects law enforcement or other sensitive information and intelligence sources and methods, maintains an appropriate separation between intelligence functions and policy and legal judgments, ensures that efforts to protect electoral processes and institutions are insulated from political bias, and respects the principles of free speech and open debate. In Section 2, all property and interests in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States. Now let me, start that one once again. All property and interests in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States, or that are or hereafter come within the possession or control of any United States person of the following persons are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in any foreign person determined by the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security. 1, to have directly or indirectly engaged in, sponsored, concealed, or otherwise been complicit in foreign interference in the United States election. So, all property and interests in property that are in the United States, bear in mind that Australia is a United States registered corporation, that hereafter come within the United States, or that are or hereafter come within the possession or control of any United States person of the following persons are blocked. I don't know what that means. And may not be the following persons, comma, are blocked and may not be transferred. So basically, this means that if you own property in America or any other country, you are blocked from selling it. Any money that you get from it won't be allowed to be transferred or whatever. Paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt with in any foreign person determined by the security. Yeah, right. Part 2 is to have materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial, material, or technological support for, or goods or services to, in any support of any activity described in subsection AI of this section, or any person whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order, or to be owned or controlled by, or to have acted or purported to act for or on behalf of, directly or indirectly, any person whose property or interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order. That essentially means, just have a reread. Okay. So it essentially means that anything and everything that you own, if they can track you in any way to being tied to interfering in the election, anything and everything that you own becomes theirs. Everything. Now, these are probably 2 other executive orders well worth looking up, 13694 and 13757. It says that the orders are remaining in effect. This order is not intended to and does not serve to limit the Secretary of Treasury's discretion to exercise the authorities provided in the Executive Order 13694. Another good one to look up. Where appropriate, the Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, may exercise the authorities described in the Executive Order of 13694, or other authorities in conjunction with the Secretary of the Treasury's exercise of authorities provided in this order. Prohibitions in subsection A of this section apply. I'm just trying to get to the good bit. I didn't get time to pre-read this. The Secretary of the Treasury shall review the assessment mandated, right? And Okay, this might be the section. The recommendation shall include an assessment of the effect of the recommended sanctions on the economic and national security interests of the United States and its allies. Any recommended sanctions shall be appropriately calibrated to the scope of the foreign interference identified and may include one or more of the following with respect to each targeted foreign person: blocking and prohibiting all transaction in a person's property and interests in property subject to United States jurisdiction, export license restrictions under any statute or regulation that requires the prior review and approval of the United States government as a condition of the export or re-export of goods or services, prohibitions on United States financial institutions making loans or providing credit to a person, restrictions on transactions in foreign exchange in which a person has any interest, prohibitions on transfers of credit or payments between financial institutions or by, through, or any other financial institution for the benefit of a person, prohibitions of United States persons investing in or purchasing equity or debt of a person, exclusion of a person's alien corporate offices from the United States. So some fairly hefty penalties there involved if you are caught interfering in an election, whether you are a national or an international who's been caught doing it, and they probably continue. They do. Imposition on a person's alien principal executive officers of any of the sanctions prescribed in this section, and finally, any other measures authorized by law. I'm just having a look here. It looks like there might be a couple of get out of jail. The prohibitions in Section 2 of this order include the following: the making of any contribution or provision of funds, goods, or services by, to, or for the benefit of any person whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order. So this means that if you try and help someone or company that has been blocked by the United States, this act, this order, then you're going to be subjected to all the same punishments that they've been subjected to. That's essentially what that says. Any transaction that evades or avoids, any conspiracy formed to violate any of the prohibitions set forth in this order is prohibited. For the purpose of this order, the term person means individual or entity. The term entity means partnership, association, trust, joint venture, corporation, group, subgroup, or other organization. The term United States person means United States citizen, permanent resident, alien, entity organized under the law of the United States or any jurisdiction within the United States, including foreign branches, or any person, including a foreign person in the United States. The term election infrastructure means information and communications technology and systems used by or on behalf of the federal government, state or local government in managing the election process, including voter registration databases, voting machines, voting tabulation equipment, and equipment for the secure transmission of election results. There's some interesting stuff in here, folks. And given what's going on in Victoria at the moment with the Victorian election, I think it's salient to understand a few things. I don't know that I'll need to go off and read that any further. It doesn't look like it's tracking on the screen. It should be, but it's not for some reason. So my apologies. I think what we need to understand with that executive order, Donald Trump makes it quite clear the punishment for everybody that is caught trying to do something illegal in an election, in an American election. Now, if we can skip forward just a little bit, I would say that there are valid arguments at this point to say that we are already under American control to a point. I believe that the corporate Australia, if you like, is, if not dead, then certainly owned in America and under the control of white hats now. I think the corporate side of it's going to be blown away. Australia, if found guilty, and it's pretty obvious that we have had some involvement, and Trump made those executive orders quite public. Everybody could see them. and countries would be very stupid not to look at the executive orders that are put out by a president. They just thought, I think they all thought they were too smart, and what was he doing reading the tea leaves, looking forward like that, to know that there might be a call for someone to take control. You'll find that further down in that article, which you can just Google, Executive Order 13848, its number is, and that will outline to you there are some significant punishments, including acquisition of all your assets. Now, in the case of a country, that means that America takes over a country. Now, that could mean, and this is why we smile at each other when we talk sometimes. I know Ricardo and I have nodded and smiled a bit and smirked a bit about Australia being the 51st state of America. It's not as stupid as it sounds, folks. It's not as outrageous as it sounds. It's actually more than likely on the cards. And if it's not the 51st state, then I believe Australia, along with New Zealand, most of, if not all of the South Pacific Islands, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, don't know about Vanuatu, will become American protectorates. And that will mean essentially that we'll be covered under American law. I think American Samoa and Guam are American protectorates. So people more learned than I might be able to look up what an American protectorate is while we're talking and put it up in the chat. I'm just seeing some interesting... hang on a minute. Let me cancel that. I'm seeing some interesting things being posted up here I've missed. Has Koshi resigned or been arrested? I didn't know that Koshi had gone off anywhere. I haven't watched morning TV in a little while, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen much on by way of mainstream media at all. I do know that there seems to have been a great procession of people leaving the project, or the project. Carrie Bickmore quit. Lisa Wilkinson apparently left on the spot. And now Peter Hellier has announced that he is leaving the project as well. Now, that's got to be a bit of a shock to the system. That was only announced tonight. It's going to leave Waleed Ali there by himself. That's going to be pretty cool. What did he have to say about it? He interviewed Luke. He got to interview Luke Skywalker once. That meant a lot to him. That was one of his highlights. I don't know why he's leaving, and frankly, I don't care enough to finish reading the article. So, but Peter Hellier, that's 3. If Koshi has gone, I'd be interested. I have seen a little bit of mainstream media news recently, not attacking Channel 7, but certainly alluding to the fact that they don't have much versatility in their morning show ranks. And by that, not a diverse group of presenters. Now, by comparison, I think they put up the SBS breakfast show. It might have been the ABC breakfast show. I don't know. Like I say, I don't watch any of them. But there certainly seem to be a few more diverse colours there, if not a few names as well. Now, is it going to change Channel 7? I don't know. Apparently, Channel 7 have come last in a diversity employer survey kind of thing. They've got the least amount of diversity than any other network. That's probably saying something. But I don't know whether or not it's going to change them at all, and who really cares at the end of the day? It's their problem, not ours to deal with. We would like to see much more diversity in our workplace, provided the people who are being diverse can do the job. That's the big issue. There's no point giving people a job because they're good people. They have to be able to do the job. I sometimes wonder how it is that accountants wind up running businesses, unless they're running accounting businesses. But recently, a friend of mine who has a very successful business of her own and was propping a new business to come and join, and was getting great approval from the different levels through the business that she had to go through before it got the tick of approval after being presented to the boss by everybody below him who'd assessed it and given it the thumbs up, said, yes, this is a great idea, we should be doing this. He looked at it and drew a line through it because he's an accountant, and he thought the cost to promote his business was too much. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because without promotion, the business isn't going to go terribly well. And it was a pretty good and very cheap and very effective way of promoting, well, the whole very large business. Let's see. We'll see what happens, because I don't know. Accountants, he's a new boss and he's an accountant. Accountants know how to read the ones and the dollar signs, and they can keep track of the numbers, and that's awesome. But they've never had to go out in the street and sell a product. They've never had to deal with an angry customer who's had that product fail on them. And they have had to deal with, profits are down this month. Who can we sack? Who can we lay off? Who can we put on a casual basis and knock back their hours? They're involved in those sorts of decisions every day. But, put the shoe on the other foot and be interested to see what they actually come up with. Yes, I think Channel 10 are in damage control. Maybe we should be talking about the Aussie Cossack taking over the project. He's probably got more chance at Channel 10 than he does at Channel 9, getting Tracy Grimshaw's chair at A Current Affair. He can fill Carrie Bickmore's chair at the project, all right. I don't think the bras are going to fit, so there might be a wardrobe upgrade required. But he'd be bloody good. So I don't know. All pushing for the Aussie Cossack on the TV. Go hard. I think he's Australia's best foot in the door man ever, and he's working for the people. He's going hard at the moment. So all power to him. Yes, Mick, I saw your comment and I agree. How many of you have got Truth Social? Have you been able to get in and have a look? There is a way of checking it out. I'm not sure if it's been opened up to the world yet, but yeah, Truth Social is an interesting thing to be part of. Elon Musk and what's going on with Trump at the moment, I think that's pretty interesting. And he's using the people to reinstate Trump. He's not doing it himself. He's just put a poll up and said, should I reinstate 45? Now he can only point to the poll and say, well, I've cleaned out all the bots. I've cleaned out all the fact checkers. I've cleaned out everything else. This is as clear a vote as Twitter can ever give you. And apparently the majority said yes. So yip-yah, woohoo. It also gives Trump a way of coming back onto the platform that doesn't make him subservient in any way to Elon Musk. It's not like Musk is granting his permission to put Trump back on. It's the people have said, yes, we want to hear from Trump. So that's Musk just saying, I'm giving the people what they want. And Trump saying, well, all right, well, if you're giving the people what they want and what they want is me, okay, I can be part of that. So I think that's the way you should be viewing what's going on there with Trump. Some interesting things happened in Canberra recently. You might have seen that flash up before. The AC government has decriminalised small amounts of commonly used illicit drugs, becoming the first jurisdiction to do so in the country. Aren't they an advanced little lot? I mean, aren't they just so advanced and forward-thinking in Canberra? Beautiful. At any rate, here's what you've got to know. From October next year, people in the ACT will be able to possess the following illicit drugs without a criminal charge being levelled against them. You can have 1.5 grams of amphetamine or speed, if that's what you prefer to call it. Cocaine, you can have 1.5 grams of that. That's probably good for, 2 nostrils worth at some stage, I would have thought. I don't know. Never had it. Meth, 1.5 grams of that. Yip, yeah, go your hardest. MDMA. Most dickheads must miss the A. 1.5 grams of that. You can have 1 gram of heroin, which I'm sure is more than enough to fuck with your head. 50 grams of dried cannabis. So I suppose 50 grams of dried cannabis is it's 50 grams of dried cannabis, isn't it? Psilocybin, 1.5 grams of psilocybin. I've heard of most drugs. The only reason I can pronounce that one is because it's popped up recently a few times in my life for some reason, and so I know that that's how you say it. Let's say it. Psilocybin has something to do with mushrooms, I believe. At any rate, you're only allowed to have 1.5 grams of your mushroom psilocybin, and you can have 0.001 of a gram of LSD. I don't know if we've spoken about the shows. I think they're on Netflix. There are some very interesting documentaries on the introduction of and use of LSD through the 50s and 60s, the testing that they did on people. And we've only heard, I guess, the horror stories of it, but they're well, let me just say, there are those. I'll try and get the name and let you know. It'll have to be in tomorrow night's show. Nearly had it, I thought, there for a minute. But there are 3 videos or 3 shows, and one of them is about psilocybin. The other one, I believe, is about LSD, and the third one is it's about something else that is sort of on the edge of hallucinogenic or whatever. So I'm led to believe that these shows are really, really worth watching. I haven't seen them myself yet. My daughter has watched them and recommends them highly, and a number of people who recommended them to her, I've obviously recommend them highly. I just haven't had the time to sit down and watch them. But we'll come up with the name, and I'll let you know that in tomorrow night's show. What else have I got floating up here? Oh, this is a beautiful one. I did have this on a different screen. I was set up on another computer earlier. And for different reasons had to move. I would have been able to zoom in and blow this up for you. But this is an award-winning Kmart same-sex family doll package that you can purchase in America. I don't know if you'd seen that one. I thought it was interesting to discover that one and chuck it up. Here's one for the Victorians. Now, folks, if you are voting in Victoria this weekend, vote independent. If you want to vote A1 supported independent, great. Darren Bergwerf is obviously running in Frankston. There is a young lady running in Mildura whose name escapes me at the moment. Please, if you do not want Dan Andrews re-elected, vote independent in your area, and try and vote the independent that isn't associated with a party, if you like IMOP or UAP or whatever. Don't be involved with any of that. Also, do not get suckered in to voting for any of these parties that this Glenn Drury bastard, who got caught bragging about how he's been able to have an influence over every Victorian and, dare I say, other state elections, maybe federal elections, for the last 25 years, because he sets up parties that are simply fronts for the Labor Party, and we're going to siphon votes their way in preferences. That includes the Liberal Democrats, the Democratic Labor Party, or the DLP, the Sack Dan Andrews Party. Now, nobody seriously expects whoever stands as the person for the Sack Dan Andrews Party is going to stand in one seat, and he's going to get whatever votes he gets, but his preferences are going to go to Dan Andrews. All right? That's just So sick. And just the kind of thing these bastards do. Health Australia, New Democrats, Fiona Patton's Reason Party, Darren Hinch, he'll be running under the, what's his, Law and Order Party, I think, or something, or maybe just Hinch is just running for himself. Companions and Pets, Sustainable Australia, Animal Justice, the Legalised Cannabis Mob, the Transport Matters Mob, and the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Mob. All of those are a vote for Dan Andrews. Every single one of them. So if you're in Victoria and you're voting this weekend, just whatever you do, don't say, oh, I'm not going to vote. Bastards. Doesn't matter anyway. It's all cheating. Don't do that. It's important that you get out and you vote. Now, I don't want to tell you how to vote, but independent for me, after having seen what's happened in Victoria, having seen the trauma on so many Victorians' faces and heard so many stories, real life stories of the losses that they experienced. And I'm not talking just financial or business losses. I'm talking personal losses, marriage breakups, children who've committed suicide in the home, just horrendous things that have happened that our mainstream media have kept very quiet about. But the people, particularly in Melbourne, who I think suffered some of the harshest lockdowns anywhere in the world, if not the harshest lockdowns in the world, have suffered terribly for. Do not let, the fact that we believe that there's been so much corruption in the election process before deter you from voting this time round. Make sure you go out, cast a vote for an independent. If you can't find an A1 independent, if you can't find an independent, then, vote for a party independent like an IMOP or whatever. But go for the independents first, if that's what you can, if you have one in your particular seat, because that's the only way we are going to see the kind of change. And when you see someone at the exit doing an exit poll, please tell them what you voted. Truthfully. Tell them truthfully what you voted. All right? Don't be shy. If you're going to get change that is required in Victoria, if you're going to get this bastard not only thrown out but locked up, then you're going to need to be proud of who you're voting for at the moment and why you're voting for them. So when you get those pollsters, as you exit the polling booths or the polling places, and they say, oh, do you mind just answering a few questions? Please answer those questions. It'll be a great shock to many. But obviously, if you have the ability to stick your mobile phone up and record yourself while you're being asked these questions, it'll make some great online footage. Love to see it. If you want to send it through, we'll put it up for you, or you can put it up on your own channel. Do whatever you like. Send us a link. But yeah, love to see what happens in Victoria on polling day. And I was speaking to Darren Bergworth today in Frankston. Now, he's flat out at the moment in the lead up to the election this weekend, of course. So, folks, if you are in that Frankston seat, he's up against a Labor guy there. So take that for what you will. Darren, I can't begin to tell you how good Darren would be for not only Frankston folks, but for Victoria. If he was elected to that parliament, I cannot begin to tell you how much of a difference he would make in the lives of every Victorian. He is such a motivated man to help, to build community, and to stop the lies, to get to the bottom of the lies, to get to the bottom of the corruption. He is exactly the kind of bloke that you want representing you in our parliament. He's a leader, folks, and he is really worth your attention. Darren Bergworth in Frankston, running as an A1 supported independent this weekend. And if you're in that seat, please, I implore you, vote Darren independent, because he will make not just a difference in your lives, as I say, and the people of the seat of Frankston, but he will make a difference in every Victorian's life. And I have a sneaking suspicion if he doesn't get in here, then down the track, who knows? He might be making a difference in Australians' lives. He might stand for a federal seat. He's that kind of bloke that you would want in a brave new world, leading the fight for us, because he's looking for new ideas. He's full of them himself, but doesn't think he has all the answers. He's very open to doing what's best for everybody, and is fully aware that we all need to contribute. This isn't a leadership thing. This is just, okay, here's a road. This is the road we can follow, and here's some plans we can make to make sure that when those following us are coming down our road, they've got some pretty cool places to stop and stay along the way. So keep an eye out for Darren Bergworth. He's a big mover and shaker in Victoria, and I can tell you that my place is kicking along famously, and that's what we'd like to try and get going. Hervey Bay, Rockhampton, Mackay, Townsville, and if we get up to Cairns, if there are folks in Cairns or somebody further south of Cairns, I want to say maybe Innisfail, got in touch and said they would like us to come up there too, but I've lost your phone number or your email or all of it, so I can't put Cherie onto you. So if you're up that way and you want to help us out with the show, then we would be looking at somewhere like the 5th or the 6th of December in Townsville. Be in touch with Cherie at vofhq.com if you can help us out there. If you've only just joined us, a little bit of news is we're heading back on the road again. This time, Hervey Bay on the 27th, Rockhampton on the 29th. That may shift to the 28th, I'll let you know. But the 29th, that's next Monday. Then the following Wednesday, we will be in Mackay, and no, I think I've buggered that right up. So, Thursday, December 1 in Mackay, and then Saturday, December 3 in Townsville. So we might be able to do Monday or Tuesday in Cairns. We'll take a day to drive up there, and I've never been past Townsville, so would love to have a bit of a look at the road up there and see what there is. Maybe we can head up onto the Tablelands. I don't know if we've got anybody from Atherton, the Atherton Tablelands, watching us. Mareeba, that's I was in Mareeba once, many years ago, and they were trying very hard to convince me to take the breakfast job at Mareeba. And I was very full of myself and very full of my own importance at the time, and was waiting patiently for a job in Capital City Radio that I thought was coming. And they flew me up there, went to Mareeba. We turned up on a night, or a day at least, where there was a rodeo in town, or a rodeo. I can't remember which way you say it up north. It's different depending on where you are in Queensland. And there was a big parade in town that night, and I just got off the plane. I'd been driven up the hill to Mareeba in the station car, been shown the radio station, which, if I'm honest, at the time was best described as primitive, and then told or asked if I would drive the station car that we'd just come up the mountain in a parade that was about to take place in the main street. I said, "Oh, okay, yes, sure, right, no worries at all. Let's do that." So, so I've jumped in the car and I've driven the car. There was a truck that had the other people from the radio station up there waving flags. At some point, I was announced as the new breakfast announcer, which I hadn't agreed to at that stage. And after that night, we wound up in a old theatre. I want to say it was an old theatre. And I wound up in the top of that old theatre, listening to a band that was playing the best cover songs of all time and drinking Bundy rum with a bunch of cowboys. And they had their way with me, folks. Let me say, I'll be honest. They were pulling little magical disappearing cigarette tricks for $10 a go. They were doing, they were doing all sorts of weird shit to me. And all the time filling me with what used to be my favorite drink at the time. And the next day, suffice to say, I couldn't get out of town fast enough. I don't think they could get me out of town fast enough. I remember I had to stop because I wasn't feeling terribly well, and I needed a toilet. And I stopped at this park in Mareeba, still had the station car, and there was a family in this park that was sitting down on a picnic rug, young family, mum, dad, 2 little kids. And I thought, what an interesting sight that makes, because there was nothing in the park that was green. It had been so hot for so long that there was no grass, no nothing. Well, as it turns out, that wasn't quite true. There was something. There was a weed growing out of a crack in the ground, and it was quite a sizable weed, really weed. And I got, within about 2 or 3 steps of it and realised, there's a weed, and instantly had to throw up. So I've dropped down on all fours and thrown up all this last night's Bundy rum all over this weed right beside the family, having a nice day in the park. That was one of the first signs of me thinking I better start giving up drinking rum, at least. Mareeba holds a very fond memory for all the wrong reasons for me. But I'd love to go back and have a look at it. I got to say, it wasn't the primitive radio station that scared me off. It was the fact that when we arrived in Mareeba, there were 27 cows just roaming around on the main street. I've got to be honest, I wasn't ready for that. 27 cows just walking up and down the main street. Nobody seemed to care about it. It wasn't an issue. They make them good up there in North Queensland, eh, but? Oh, see, now that's me having a go. People outside of Australia may not understand that. Hey, but, great day. So in Australia, in many parts of Australia, people say, great day, hey. Great day, hey. Hey, what? I've found the further north you go, they add a but on the end. Great day, eh? But what? It's a great day or it's not? But why isn't it a great day? I've never quite understood. Great day, eh? But at any rate, we could also go into why I don't understand why people don't say kilometre instead of kilometre. Because there aren't 50 motters in a 50 motter pool, are there? You don't run the 100 motter dash at the Olympics. I can't jump 1 motter over a high jump, but I can't jump a metre over a high jump either. So, I don't know why there's 1,000 motters in a kilometre. There are 1,000 metres in a kilometre. Just saying. Anyway, we're not going to get onto it. It's like talking about hospital and hostable. All gets a bit rough. All right, folks. Look, I've been prattling on. Jesus God, I've been going for, pardon me, Lord. Been going for an hour and 25 minutes. Rambling, full of shit. I do apologise. If you want to have a look at those executive orders, he does mention quite a few in that first order there. They are very, very, very worthwhile reading. And then once you understand that, you'll understand that there is, in effect, a military angle to all of this. And we are, I believe, ostensibly under a form of military control at the moment. When it becomes public, that will be the lockdown phase that we've been hearing so much about, maybe the emergency broadcast. So what we're hearing is a lot of this stuff is going to happen soon. I know Ricardo spoke today in Mildura and said that the same sort of thing. His intel is that it's sooner rather than later. So, look, we've heard all that before. We've heard November the 11th. We've heard, we've heard too many bloody dates. So, look, all I can say is be prepared. Go and get some gold. Go and get some silver. If you haven't already done so, give Paul a call at Ainsley Bullion in Brisbane, or you can call Daniel in Melbourne and have a chat to them about gold or silver or other precious metals. We didn't really get a chance to see palladium or platinum or, well, a few of the other P words that I'm sure they're hiding in a vault there somewhere. But maybe we'll get invited back if enough people go in and say they enjoyed what we were saying and doing with Ainsley. And promise the pictures will improve next time we go back. It'll be, I think, broadcast quality by the time you get to see it. So Ainsley Bullion, once again, thank you very much for allowing us in and showing us around and giving us access to what was, probably closer to $1 million worth of stuff there. So that was very generous of them. And look, they did it all without a security guard sitting at the end of the table. It was great. I'll call the night, folks. You should too. I'm sorry I made it so late tonight for all of you in other regions. It's only, about 10 to 9 here. But I realise it's probably past your bedtime, particularly if you're New South Wales folks. We are still looking for a show. We're looking to fulfil a promise on a show in New South Wales. That's heading up towards Katoomba in the Blue Mountains at Michelle's place. Now, that's all hinging on a bit of a gear we want to go and collect and get in Sydney and then set up and use at her place for the first time. So we're all sort of just hinging on when that's going to arrive in the country at the moment. We've heard some stories, and I'm not exactly sure how true they are, that our ports are closed to cargo shipping at the moment. Hence, I'm keen to go around and have a look in Brisbane tomorrow. And if you are doing anything like driving around a port in one of our capital cities, just have a bit of a look and see how many cargo ships are in, can you? I know that, we might have bulk haulers in. Nothing stops the ore or the coal, but interested in cargo ships, bulk haulers. Are we still doing business as usual? I did hear, I don't know the name of the company, Svitzer, I think is how you say it. I could be wrong. Switzer, something like that. We're locking people out of their 17 wharves or 17 ports around the country. Don't know how true that is. Don't know whether or not it actually happened. Be keen to find out if that is the case. That's going to make it hard to deliver our fuel, which comes from Singapore. And certainly I know for Far North Queensland, comes into Mackay, comes into Townsville, comes into Gladstone. There are 3 big ports there. Also wondering if there's any US warships or any warships at all in port from any given country. If you have any of those details and you'd like to let me know, then please email me, carl@vofhq.com. I'm having some trouble with email at the moment. We've got I think it's a denial of service attack that's happening through our website, and it's really slowing down our email. But give it a go. I'm hopeful that our web guy will be on that in the next day or two. He's just busy at the moment with the election, and that's happening down in Victoria, and he's helping out a friend there. So we'll get fixed sooner rather than later. At the moment, we just have to deal with, oh God, I don't know how many thousands of spam emails that we're getting a day, but getting a heap of them. Must be saying something right. That's all I can say. And I guess if I was a bit more financial, I would probably pay the web guy rather than beg his indulgence. So, if you want to help us out with the web guy, we can always do with a favor there. Oh, listen, there is something, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. Does anybody have a generator they don't want and might want to donate? It's looking increasingly like we're going to need a generator to do some of the places that we're going to go and do shows from in the coming months. And I don't have a generator. So I haven't really looked to see how much a generator costs either, but I don't know what I need I don't know what I don't know about generators. I don't know if I need, 2.5 kVA or 3.5 kVA or a 4.5 kVA, given that we want to run equipment and computers and, lights and all that sort of stuff. Nothing takes a huge amount of power, but I'm sure, given my luck, I can go out and pick up a second-hand generator, and not only will it be not powerful enough to power everything that we require, it'll blow up, just when we need it most. That's the kind of shit luck I have. So any advice on that would love to hear from you folks. I'm currently in Brisbane, so if someone had one they wanted to loan us for this run up north, that would be pretty helpful. But like I say, we run a fair bit of computer gear and camera gear and other stuff. So it's a matter of learning what I don't know about generators. So if you can help, carl@vofhq.com, would really appreciate it. Gold City Bullion in Adelaide, another place to go. Thank you, Salty. Joe in Ainsley, Melbourne's good too. Yes, I was speaking to Joe, Peter. He was very helpful. They've got a great little team down there in Melbourne. I'm looking forward. That interview was originally meant to happen in Melbourne. And I was heading back to Melbourne after the Shepparton gig to do that. Unfortunately, I was separated from my equipment, which meant I was going to have to do a mad dash to Canberra to go and get the cameras and associated other bits, because the larrikins were not coming back to Melbourne. And one thing led to another. I wound up having to come back to Queensland anyway. So fortuitous that we could shoot it at Ainsley Bullion in Brisbane instead. And Daniel was instrumental in making that very easy and very simple to happen. So Daniel in Melbourne at Ainsley Bullion, thank you very much for your help. And of course, folks, if you are in the remotest bit interested in investing in metals, then give Ainsley Bullion a call or give them an email. Tell them that you spoke to me, you saw me on the Voice of Freedom, and we gave you that recommendation. They'll answer any questions that you have. And if you haven't seen it already, then go and check out the library on Nun2K, and you'll find our Ainsley Bullion chat there with Paul. Paul's the director of the business, owner of the business, and has been in the game for about a decade. His family in it before him, and has a wealth of knowledge on the subject. So really look forward to maybe getting another opportunity to have another chat with Paul at some stage. There is a lot more into the history of silver and gold than we really know. And I'm led to believe he's got a pretty good idea on most of it. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of those stories. Just trying to scan and just see if there's any major questions I have missed. There's probably heaps of them. I beg your pardon. It's very hard to read those things at the moment. I've only got one screen to work off, and difficult to read that executive order and keep track of comments. Sent me a video. There you go. Crunchy, what you sent me? You sent me a video about roadblocks North Queensland, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. I will go and dig my emails out. And to everybody else, thank you very much for turning up tonight. Sorry I was so late. Bit of a dickhead mucking up daylight saving. So, yeah, my apologies. My apologies sincerely. Tomorrow night, God, who knows? I have a couple of interesting. You see this book here? I can't show you that page. Hang on. No, I can't show you that page. Hang on. Right. You see this book here? No. There? Look. Shit. You're going to have to believe me. I'm holding the book. And in that book has some very interesting phone numbers. Hopefully, one of those phone numbers will be answered tomorrow with an affirmative, and I will have a very interesting man on for a chat. If it is going to happen, I will do a little live, probably only on Nun2K, so I can do that on my phone to let you know who that person is. But fingers crossed, we will have a very interesting chat with a gentleman tomorrow evening that I think you'll really enjoy. Can't tell you any more than that. Just trying to be a bit teasy, spooky. There you go. There we go. Hang on a minute. Peter has a tip. My tip, that's to buy Ainsley Bullion. The 1/10 kookaburra is rare and very collectible. There you go. I was probably looking at one of those the other day. I've got a 1 ounce kookaburra. I think that's one of my coins. Got a 1 ounce kookaburra. It's a beautiful coin. I love the detail And I just wish, folks, that the pictures were good enough. I don't think they were. I just wish the pictures were good enough, and I will try and do some editing on some still photos that I took to show you the exquisite detail in that 1 kilo gold coin. I mean, it's quite thick and not terribly big, but very heavy, obviously, for the size of it. And then that larger silver coin beside it. The detail is just exquisite. And you see different things under different light by moving them around. I mean, I can understand why people get so excited at shiny things. And, you hear small grumblings of people walking out in the elevator saying, "My precious." Or was that just me? Sorry. Yeah. So at any rate, go and give it a look. I think if you've got a few bucks to spare, and you can start with the cheapest coin or the cheapest ingot, because look, if this goes, look, let's just briefly talk about the extremes of this. Now, we've heard all sorts of wild numbers thrown around about where the price of silver could go. Now, at the moment, without looking it up, it's probably, if you're going to go and buy it, somewhere between $37 and $43 an ounce, depending on what you're buying, whether it's a coin or an ingot, or whether it's a bar or a whatever described by Paul, that made the differences the other day. Now, if you're going to go and sell that, you're probably going to get $10 less for it selling it because of all the reasons that Paul gave the other day. So now is not the time to sell it. The time to sell it is when you make more on what you paid for it. And at the moment, that's not going to happen. But they're saying it is going to happen. And when it does happen, it's going to happen dramatically. So let's say an ounce of silver, which today is worth, let's call it $40, all of a sudden, overnight, because of some skullfuckery that the markets have done to us for years in something called the COMEX market, have been suppressing the price of silver. And overnight, we wake up to a market that says, shit, silver's now worth $20,000 an ounce. Gold is worth $22,000 an ounce. So both of them have gone up through the roof, but gold is worth $2,000 more an ounce than silver. But silver is at $20,000 an ounce. You think, shit, I'm going to go and get one of those coins out, or a couple of those coins out, and I'm going to go and take them down and sell them. Well, I'd hang on a bit, because we've heard other examples that the price is going to go to 40,000, 70,000. I've heard 80,000. I've heard over 100,000. I've heard 140,000 mentioned. That's the highest figure I've heard it mentioned. Now, I'll just be honest. I can't see a time where anybody is going to pay $140,000 an ounce, whether it be for gold, platinum, silver, myrrh, or God knows what. I cannot envisage that. But that's not to say it won't happen, because there's a lot of shit that we can't envisage that is going to happen. So could there be a way? What the hell would happen with inflation? There are so many things that we, take for granted in our world as real that aren't, and they affect those sorts of decisions. So we've got no real way of knowing. But let's say on the conservative side, it goes from $40 an ounce to $4,000 an ounce. Okay? And that's probably not beyond the realms of possibility, bearing in mind that both gold and silver have been suppressed. Gold will also go up. Now, gold might only go up to, say, $3,500 or $4,000 an ounce. If that's the case, then silver is likely to be fractionally less than gold, but only a little bit less than gold. It won't be, $2,500 less like it is now. If you want to buy an ounce of gold, off the top of my head, you're going to be paying somewhere around $2,500, $2,600 to buy 1 ounce of gold. Now, we saw in that Ainsley video just how little an ounce of gold is, how easy that would be to lose in my case, and then we saw the difference with an ounce of silver, either in the shape of a coin or a bar. Now, if that silver is going to go from $40 to $4,000 or $3,000, let's say, even if it goes to $1,000, isn't it? I mean, it's a hell of a win, isn't it? I mean, depending on how many of them you got. If you've got 40 of them, you're going to make 40 grand. Great. If it goes to $10,000, you're going to make $400,000. That's great. Wonder what the price of houses will be by the time you get that money. And then you've got to find someone who wants to buy it off you at that price. That's not going to happen. So, these are all things that you need to bear in mind. They're not big things to do on the play of whether you buy silver or you don't. Silver is bought for the long term, and gold is bought for the long term. It's not bought for immediacy, and you're not going to be chopping it up and having to pay little bits of gold coin over or silver coin over a bench to pay for the butcher or the groceries that week. That's not going to happen. We might have another. I've been trying to get a hold of Spiros this week. Wanted to have a chat about people's banks, because I've been approached by a number of people who are very keen to put money into something like this, which of course has to be backed by gold. I'm not the person to run that sort of thing. I frankly don't have the time, but very happy to be involved in helping getting it established. There may well be people who are interested in helping establish something like that. So Cherie is the lady to flag your attention with there at vofhq.com, SHEREE at vofhq.com. Right, now I've talked, now I've talked over an hour and a half. I think we're going right. Buy high, sell higher, says Harry. We'll look at silver at the moment, I guess, is high compared to what it was a year ago. If you'd have bought silver a year ago, you'd pay $25 an ounce. Today, you're going to pay 40. So it is on the way up. It's just going up slowly. But I would argue that it's probably better in a vault in your house making money like that than it is making money for the cabal in their banking system in what used to be your super fund. And I got a letter the other day. I've got to ring Cass Smith in Canberra to find out about if there is a cutoff for moving your super out of big super and into self-managed super funds. Somebody told me the other day that they believe there was a cutoff for that. So we'll get Cass on for another chat and find out what's going on there. But if that is the case, then all the more urgency to be in contact with her at holisticfinancialsolutions.com.au is the name of the company, or freedomffs.com. It might have a .au at the end. I'm not sure. But yeah, check that out and you will do pretty good indeed. Jackie says, Jackie, you paid 38 for an ounce of silver 18 months ago. Well, there you go. I might have screwed my dates around a bit. But I'm sure I read something, but not sure what date that was written. But yeah, maybe I got it wrong. If that's the case, then it hasn't lost anything. So you can be happy about that. Not going to make anything of you sell it just yet. But at any rate, we do think it's going to be pretty good. Harry, Ainsley Bullion, Harry, if you go to ainsleyBullion.com.au, they've got a live price ticker on there for the price of silver and gold currently. Silver to 3/4 of gold, you were told by a miner. That's interesting. I believe that's probably not far from it. In fact, very close. It's sort of what I'm hearing too. The Commonwealth Bank just got rid of a lot of workers. So the Commonwealth Bank, I don't know if you're a Commonwealth Bank customer. If you are, try and change your account, move your account, do something with an account. They'll have you go through a whole questionnaire system, and they want to know the ins and outs of a duck's nugget. I tell you, it is unbelievable. They want to know where you make your money, where you used to make your money, how you made your first money, what you do with your money, why you do what you do with your money, and why you want to continue doing it. If you want to continue accessing your money through the approved processes through the Commonwealth Bank, then you will only be allowed to do so should you allow us to sign you up to this digital identity, and that'll be all great, because then we'll be able to safely allow you access to your money. Of course, if we decide you don't get access to your money, we'll safely be able to deny you access, and that's listed in the advice. I'm not sure if I don't have a video of it somewhere. It is absolutely staggering. Commonwealth Bank are going to blackmail you into getting a digital ID, and they're just the first ones. They're the first ones I've heard about. I haven't tried doing anything with the bank I deal with. God, they're just going to make it absolutely impossible to not get anything unless you have a digital ID. And how long before they start putting, shit, people are going to say, I don't want to have to carry something around in my wallet or on my phone. I'm only going to lose my phone. Let's stick it in the back of my hand, I think it's already happening. That's probably a bit of a problem. Sue, if you're Commonwealth, I advise you, do some investigation, but they're certainly running a survey at the moment, and they will tell you that they will stop giving you access to your money at any time through your digital ID system. And this is our social credit score coming into play. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, folks. It's going to be interesting. ANZ have been closing branches all over the place. Yes, they have. NAB have been doing the same thing. Commonwealth Bank too. Seeing a lot of ATMs being removed, a lot of bank-owned ATMs being removed. We did have a story there a couple of weeks back about new ATM machines that are able to convert Bitcoin into cash. They are privately owned, aren't they all? So there'll be a fee attached to using those ones too, folks. I have absolutely no doubt. Unless through some, I don't know, magnificent, new people's bank, there is no fees for transactions through, bank ATMs. It's the way it should be, I would have thought. But anyway, enough about the bankers. We've got to stop getting the bastards. Yes, Denise, you're right. Commonwealth Bank was taken over by the Rockefellers. Yes, Commonwealth Bank also used to be behind the Reserve Bank, but they've been split, obviously, for cabal-related reasons. And, we have what we have these days, obviously the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is simply a central bank, and we all know who owns the central banks. But in Australia, you're right, the Rockefellers have a large interest in the Commonwealth Bank too, which interestingly is also registered in America as a corporation. God, who knew? Very, very weird. Yes, so you folks are talking about Derek. If you haven't come across Derek Johnson, he's a former Marine, very knowledgeable young man. He's an injured vet and very passionate. Unfortunately, he's not used to trolls. Gives them a great deal of time. Unfortunately, he reads what they say and gets upset about it. And then you can see that in his videos. But the information that he imparts is 100% spot on. Lovely guy. I've actually got a request in to talk to him at the moment. I'm one of the pile that he's referring to in his last message that he does have a heap of interview requests. So I'm in that pile. With a bit of luck, we'll get him on. But I find him fascinating to watch. And when he's speaking about, actual US military code, which is something that Australians need to understand. The UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that is a very, very serious book. And and you want to look that one up on Google as well. The Uniform Code of Military Justice. Now, in there, you can probably also look up in America the Law of War. I know Ricardo has got a video out called The Laws of War, Part 1. I think there were 3 parts meant to be coming out. Part 2's out too, I want to say. Haven't seen it, but the American Articles of Laws of War, or the Law of War, is basically what happens when war happens and how America will fight a war. And it's a military doctrine document that isn't political in any way, shape, or form. It actually gives the power under the US Constitution for the military to act independent of government, particularly if they discover that that government is corrupt. Now, going back to the document that I was reading from before, the executive order, essentially what they've done there is enabled a whole heap of military to take over and run the country from, it turned out to be November 2 years later. But we are now seeing the results of that, folks. So I know it doesn't seem like it. I know we keep saying it's coming. But there are... explain to me why so many of our television stars are dropping away. We knew that it was going to come. We knew it was going to come in a rush. Now, because you watch mainstream media, you won't see that there, or hear that there are probably a number of suicides happening as well, because they don't cover the suicides in mainstream media unless it's a really big name, maybe, and then it'll be if you've got mental health issues down the bottom, here's the number 2 Beyond Blue or Helpline or Lifeline rather. So they're probably not the people to call. Oh no, I shouldn't say that. They are the people to call if you need help in that regard. So. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that'll be going on this next few weeks. Let's see what other TV and movie stars disappear off the face of the earth. You saw that Chris Hemsworth has decided to back away from acting for a while. He's just completed a Netflix series called Limitless, where he explored the limits of his body and his strength, and during that discovered that he is 10 times more likely to suffer from Alzheimer's than those of us that don't have a special gene in our head. So he has now announced that he is stepping away from acting and taking a break, going to go and live happily with the kids and the family in the hills of Byron. Well, but is he? Because the huge mansion that he, I think, spent 5 years building, $20 million or more worth, palatial place. Many complaints to council about it from the locals while it was being built, before it was being built. I think he bought 2 properties, might have been 3, knocked down all of the houses and built one house that covered the whole lot, essentially. It's got a beautiful views down to the ocean and direct beach access. That's up for sale. They've only been in it maybe, 4 years, maybe 3-4 years. Now, okay, they have quite an extensive property portfolio, I believe, in Byron Bay. The Hemsworths in total, between the brothers, I think they all own quite a few properties. So it's not just them. Property prices, obviously, in Byron are very high. The median price, very expensive. And you've got to be in a certain bracket to afford to live there. I think you've got to be of a certain mindset to actually want to live there. Especially in summer. Jeez, place is bedlam in summer. Can't move around. The whole town goes into gridlock because the greenie, I beg your pardon, the councillors that are running the area don't like traffic lights. It would spoil the ambience of Byron Bay if there were traffic lights. And I think there's one roundabout. So in their place, they put people with stop and go signs. The road from the freeway into Byron Bay is about 8 kilometres long. It has taken me over 2.5 hours to travel that road during the summer, just to go in. pick someone up, bring them back to the airport. It's just, yeah, no. Don't go to Byron in summer. That's my advice. Very nice in other times of the year, but yeah, no. All right. So I'm going to call it quits now that I've talked for nearly 2 hours. God damn. Sorry, folks. Don't know what I'm doing. This wasn't the plan tonight, so thanks for sticking around with me. I really appreciate that you do so. Once again, we can only get on the road if you allow us to do so. We look for your donations to put fuel in the car and help us out on the road where we can. So you can donate at voiceoffreedom.com and help us get on the road. We're heading to Harvey Bay, Rockhampton, Mackay, and Townsville next, and that'll be Sunday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning in in Harvey Bay. So looking forward to that. Len Clampett's going to be on the road with me. You're going to love Len. He's got some very interesting stories. He's a very knowledgeable man on a whole range of subjects. So it's not going to be a boring week away with Len, and I think we'll have some very interesting shows. A bit of a pity, as I said earlier, the Galactic Larrikins can't join us. But look at it this way, it'll be one less dickhead on the road that we have to avoid, eh?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!